alone in the ruins of her planet. The sky was dark. Ash fell like snow. Fires still burned in the distance. The once beautiful city of Alina was now just broken buildings and silence. Elira, a young alien girl with silver blue skin and glowing, violet eyes, hid beneath a piece of metal from a crashed ship. Her body shook. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Her lips were dry. Her small hands held a dull knife, but she knew it wouldn't save her. Her people were gone. Her village, her family, her friends, all gone in one single attack. The raiders came from the sky. They didn't speak. They didn't ask. They only destroyed. And when the ships left, they took nothing. They only wanted to erase everything. Elira had watched her mother run into fire just to distract the attackers. Her father had been caught while trying to help children escape. Elira was the only one left. Now she sat alone, heart beating fast at every little sound. The wind blew dust into her eyes. Her legs were weak. She had no water, no food, and no hope. But then, she heard footsteps. Not loud like a soldier, not fast like a raider. Just slow, steady steps on broken ground. She held her breath. Through the smoke, she saw a figure. It was tall, strong, and wore something strange. Not alien armor. It was a human. A male. He held a long object in one hand, maybe a weapon. His face was covered with a visor. Elira's heart raced. Humans were dangerous, everyone said that. They fought with fire. They didn't care about other species. She stayed very still, trying not to move. Maybe he would pass by. But the human stopped. His visor turned toward her. He saw her. Elira gripped her knife tighter. She knew she couldn't win, but she would fight. She didn't want to die like this. The human raised both hands slowly, not to shoot, not to hurt, but to show he had no weapon pointed at her. Then he did something strange. He took a small bottle from his bag. He placed it gently on the ground and stepped back. Elira frowned. Was it a trick? Poison? A trap? The human spoke, but his words were strange. She didn't understand. His voice was low, calm. No anger. He nodded once, pointed at the bottle, then slowly walked away to sit by a stone nearby. He didn't leave. He just sat, watching the burning city in silence. Elira waited. Minutes passed. Her throat hurt badly. She looked at the bottle. Clear liquid inside. She reached out with shaking hands and grabbed it. She smelled it. Nothing strange. She took a small sip. Water. Real water. Tears came to her eyes. She drank slowly, not wasting a drop. The human watched, but didn't move. Later, he took out something else. A food bar. He opened it and placed it on a flat rock, then backed away again. She hesitated, but her stomach growled. The smell was strange, but not bad. She picked it up, took a bite. It was dry, but good. She chewed slowly. The human nodded. He still didn't come close. He looked tired, too. Dirty, like he had been walking for days. For a while, they sat in silence. Two strangers, one alien, one human, both alone. Night came fast. The sky turned red as the last fires burned out. The air was cold now. Elira felt her body getting weak. She curled up, holding the empty water bottle. Then, something soft landed near her. A blanket. She looked up. The human had tossed it gently her way. He stood back, still far, and pointed to it. His meaning was clear. Keep warm. She pulled it around her shoulders. It smelled like dust and metal, but it was warm. For the first time since the attack, she felt a little safe. The human laid down near the rock, not too close. He placed his weapon beside him, but didn't hold it. He looked at the sky and closed his eyes. Elira didn't sleep that night, but she didn't cry either. She watched the human. He could have hurt her. He didn't. She whispered to the stars in her own language. Why did he help me? There was no answer. But deep inside her heart, something small began to grow again. Hope. He didn't kill her. He fed her. The sun rose slowly over the broken land. The sky was dusty orange, and smoke still floated in the air. Elira opened her eyes. She had not slept, but her body was too tired to move. The human was already awake. He stood at the edge of the ruins, scanning the horizon with his strange device. His weapon was strapped to his back. He didn't look at her. He just kept watch, like a guard. Elira pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. It still felt warm. She remembered the water, the food. The human had not hurt her. But why? She didn't trust him fully, not yet. Her people always said, humans are dangerous. Stay away. But this one had given her water. This one had helped. She sat up, slowly, her body sore and weak. The human turned around and noticed her. He gave a short nod. Then, without saying anything, he took something from his bag. It looked like another food bar. He walked a little closer and placed it on the same flat rock as yesterday. Then he stepped back again. She stared at it. He pointed to the food, then made a gesture, his hand to his mouth. Eat. Elira looked at him. His face was still hidden behind a visor, but his voice was calm. Eat. It's okay. She didn't understand all the words, but she understood the meaning. Her stomach growled. Carefully, she stood up, walked to the rock, and picked up the food. She sniffed it. Then slowly, she ate. He didn't move. He let her feel safe. Later, he took out a small device, like a screen with glowing lights. It made soft sounds. He placed it between them and tapped it. Translator, he said. The device repeated. Translator active. Begin language sync. Elira tilted her head. She had never seen such a machine. The human spoke again, slowly. My name is Jackson. The device repeated his words in her language. Her eyes widened. She looked at him surprised. He pointed at himself again. Jackson. Then he pointed at her, waiting. She hesitated. Then softly she said, Elira. The device translated for him. Jackson nodded. Elira. He smiled under his visor. She couldn't see it, but something in his voice sounded kind. For the first time, Elira felt less alone. They sat in silence. For a while. She ate slowly, trying to make the food last. Jackson took out a map and looked at it, tracing paths with his finger. He looked worried. Elira stood and walked a little distance to look at the ruined city. Once, her people lived there, in peace. Now there were only broken homes and silence. Her throat tightened. She turned back and asked, Why are you here? The translator took a moment, then shared her question in his language. Jackson looked up. He spoke softly, looking for survivors. Survivors? Her heart jumped. There are more? She asked quickly. Jackson shook his head. Not many. I found no one else. Elira lowered her head. Her hope faded again. But then Jackson said, We keep looking. Together. Together? She looked into his faceplate. His voice didn't sound like a lie. Could she really trust a human? Suddenly, a loud growl echoed from the canyon nearby. Elira's body went stiff. Her ears twitched. Something was coming. Jackson stood at once, pulling out his rifle. He moved in front of Elira. From behind the rocks, two large creatures appeared. They looked like wild dogs, but with sharp claws and glowing green eyes. Desert scavengers. They sniffed the air, saw Jackson and Elira, and growled louder. Elira stepped back. She had no weapon. Her knife was gone. She was too weak to run. Jackson raised his rifle. Bang! The sound was sharp. One of the beasts fell, a hole in its chest. The other growled and charged. Jackson fired again. The second beast fell just before it reached them. Smoke rose from the rifle. Silence returned. Elira stared at the bodies. Her legs shook. Jackson turned and knelt beside her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. Her eyes were wide. He didn't speak again. He simply walked back and pulled out a thin cloth. He wiped her arm, where dust and blood had smeared. Then he gave her a new blanket, cleaner than the last. Elira sat down, heart still beating fast. Jackson sat nearby but kept a respectful distance. For hours, they didn't speak. She watched the fire he built. He roasted some dry meat and offered her a piece. It smelled strange. She took it anyway. That night the stars came out. Elira looked up at them, and for the first time since the attack, she whispered something soft under her breath. "Thank you." Jackson looked at her. He didn't say anything. But in that quiet moment, something changed. She wasn't just a lost alien girl anymore, and he wasn't just a strange human with a gun. They were two broken souls, trying to survive. Together. When the beasts came for her, the fire was almost out. Cold wind moved through the ruined land like a ghost. The sky was full of stars, but they felt far and silent. Elira sat close to the fading warmth. She pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Jackson sat nearby cleaning his weapon without saying a word. It had been 2 days since they met. Still, Elira didn't know much about him. But he hadn't hurt her. He fed her, protected her. And when she cried in her sleep, he didn't ask questions, he just kept watch. That night she couldn't sleep. Something felt wrong. The wind stopped suddenly. No sound, no movement. Even the fire stopped crackling. Elira stood up slowly. Her ears twitched. She heard something in the dark. Low, deep breathing. Many breaths. Many feet. She looked at Jackson. He had already frozen. His head turned slightly. His hand reached slowly for his rifle. They weren't alone. From the shadows, shapes began to move. First one, then 3, then more. Pale eyes glowing in the night. Their bodies were thin, with long claws and sharp teeth. Desert beasts. They were called Karzeks. Creatures that hunted anything alive, especially the weak. And they had smelled Elira. Jackson whispered, "Stay behind me." She didn't move. She couldn't. Her legs were frozen. One of the beasts growled, stepping closer. Then another came from the left. They were surrounded. Jackson raised his rifle slowly. One beast rushed in. Bang! It fell with a scream. Then the others attacked. Jackson fired again and again, but there were too many. They were fast. They leapt from the sides, trying to get around him. One jumped toward Elira. She screamed and ducked. Jackson spun around and kicked the creature back. A claw scraped his arm. He didn't stop. "Run!" he shouted. But Elira didn't want to run. Not without him. She picked up a broken metal rod and swung it wildly at a beast that got too close. It hissed and backed away. Jackson was bleeding now. His visor had a crack. He dropped his last bullet shell. Then, click, his gun was empty. The beasts circled them. Elira stood beside him. Her voice shook. "What do we do?" He looked down at her and whispered, "Hold on." Then he grabbed her arm and pulled her behind a large rock. The two of them crawled into a small gap beneath it, a tight space between fallen stones. Jackson reached into his backpack and pulled out a small flashing device. Elira's eyes widened. "What is that?" "Flash bomb," he said. "Close. Your eyes." He pushed the device out into the open, then wrapped his arm around her protectively. Boom! A bright white light exploded, followed by a loud pop. The Karzeks screamed in pain. They hated light. They ran off, blinded and confused, into the dark. Silence returned. Elira opened her eyes slowly. Jackson was still holding her, breathing hard. She looked at him. You're hurt? He nodded once. Just a scratch. It wasn't true. His arm was bleeding badly. But he smiled anyway. You okay? He asked. Illyra nodded. She didn't know what to say. No one had ever protected her like that before. Not even her own people. He had risked his life. For her. Later, Jackson used a small med pack from his bag to treat his wounds. Illyra helped clean the blood with soft cloth and water. You're good at this, he said softly. I watched my mother, she replied, voice shaking. Jackson paused. She must have been strong. Illyra looked away. She died, saving me. There was a long silence. Then Jackson said, My brother died saving me too. She looked at him. Their eyes met. Different worlds. Same pain. He whispered, We keep going. For them. Illyra nodded. For the first time, she didn't feel like a scared little girl anymore. She felt like someone who had survived. That night, she didn't sleep from fear, but from peace. She lay beside Jackson in the stone shelter, listening to his steady breathing. Her hand rested near his just a few inches away, and before she drifted off, she whispered a single word. Thank you. She heard his voice for the first time. The sun rose slowly over the wasteland, coloring the sky in soft orange and gold. Illyra opened her eyes. The stone shelter around her was cool and quiet. She could hear birds far away, a rare sound on her broken world. Jackson was already awake. He sat near the fire, working on something. His arm was bandaged, and his armor was scratched, but he looked calm. Illyra sat up and rubbed her eyes. Her body still ached, but she was getting stronger. Good morning, Jackson said. Illyra blinked. She had understood him. Not just the tone, not just the gesture, the words. Good. Morning, she repeated slowly. Jackson smiled. He held up the small translation device. It's learning, bit by bit. Illyra touched the device with her fingers. She was surprised. The machine had slowly been recording their voices, matching words and meanings. Now it could speak in both their languages, helping them understand each other. Jackson took out a small notebook and showed her a page. He had written her language, symbols, and sounds, with her name at the top. You learned this? She asked. Jackson nodded. I tried, so we could talk, so you don't feel alone. Illyra's eyes filled with tears. No one had ever tried to learn her language before. Not even other species. You speak it now, she said softly. He smiled. A little. It's beautiful. She looked away, feeling shy. After breakfast, they walked through the ruins together. Jackson kept watch, scanning the area. Illyra stayed, close. She still felt nervous in the open, but with him nearby, she didn't shake as much. They searched the ruins for supplies. Most of the buildings were empty, broken, but in one old shop, Illyra found a small glowing stone, something her mother used to wear on her necklace. She held it tight. Jackson saw the look in her eyes and said nothing. He just nodded, understanding her pain. Later that day, as they rested, under a large broken dome, Jackson pulled out an old radio. It crackled with static. Are you calling someone? Illyra asked. Jackson answered, I'm checking for signals. Human patrols. Or maybe other survivors. He pressed a button. Static. Static. Then a voice. Command to Unit 7. All alien life to be reported, no exceptions. Illyra froze. Her hand tightened around the stone. Jackson's face changed. His jaw clenched. She looked at him. What did it say? He hesitated. Nothing good. Tell me. He looked into her eyes. They think all aliens are dangerous, my people. They won't ask questions. Illyra stepped back. You brought them here? No, he said quickly. I was alone. I was never part of this plan. I came to help, not to hurt, but doubt filled her mind. Then why do you carry a gun? To protect. he said. From who? Me? No, he said, louder now. From monsters. From the ones who don't care who you are. Elira looked down. I'm just a survivor. A girl with no family, no power. Jackson took a deep breath, then he spoke again, but not through the device. He spoke in her language. You are more than that. Elira looked up sharply. You are strong, he said, slowly and carefully. You are kind. You are brave. I see you. Her eyes widened. His accent was rough, but she understood every word. He had learned her language, not just for safety, but to talk to her heart. Why? She whispered. He gave a small smile. Because you listened to me. And because I don't want to be alone either. Her voice broke. You think I'm brave? I saw you fight. I saw you stand when you were afraid. Yes, you're brave. Elira's hand touched her chest, where the glowing stone rested. Her heart felt heavy, but warm. That night, they sat beside the fire again. Jackson taught her more words in his language. She taught him hers. They laughed a little when he mispronounced words. She corrected him gently. When the stars came out, she pointed at one. My mother used to say, she told him, that when someone you love dies, they become a star, watching over you. Jackson looked up. That's beautiful, she nodded. I hope she sees me now. She would be proud, he said. Silence settled between them. Elira slowly leaned her head against his shoulder. He didn't move. He just sat quietly, warm and still. And in that moment under the stars, Elira didn't feel like a lost girl anymore. She felt seen. She felt heard. She felt safe. Human soldiers are coming, and they want her dead. Elira was smiling for the first time in days. She and Jackson had spent the morning walking through quiet paths among the ruins. The world around them was broken, but it felt less scary now. The air was calm. No beasts, no explosions, just sunlight, dust, and the sound of two survivors learning each other's words. Jackson showed her how to make a shelter with a tarp and metal beams. Elira laughed when he failed to tie a knot and the roof fell on his head. Not so strong now, she teased in her soft voice. He grinned. Strong enough to lift it off you. They shared a meal, dried fruit and warm water boiled over fire. For a moment the war felt far away, but then the radio spoke again. Alpha Team reporting. 2 heat signals near Sector 3. Confirm and engage. All non-human life is to be neutralized. Jackson's face turned pale. Elira looked up. What did they say? Jackson didn't answer at first. She stepped closer. Tell me. He looked into her eyes. His voice was low. They're coming, my people, soldiers, and they want to kill you. Elira's body went cold. Why? She asked. I've done nothing wrong. They don't care, Jackson said. They were told no aliens survived. If they see you, they'll shoot first. She took a step back. Then, you should leave me. Run. Go back to them. Jackson shook his head. I'm not leaving. You'll die, she whispered. He reached forward and held her shoulders. Not if I protect you. I promised you safety. I don't break promises. Tears filled her eyes. They didn't have much time. Jackson quickly packed their supplies. We have to hide. Deep underground. He led her through cracked roads and collapsed buildings. They found a small hatch, part of an old transport tunnel. Jackson pulled it open and they climbed down into the dark. The air below was thick and musty. Pipes dripped water. Old machines lined the walls. Jackson used his flashlight to find a safe room. Inside was a small corner with thick doors. Once, a security base. We'll stay here, he said. If they scan above, they won't see us. Elira sat against the wall, her arms wrapped around her knees. What if they find us anyway? Jackson sat beside her. Then I fight. She looked at him. You'd fight your own people? nodded. For you? Yes. Elira felt her heart ache. No one had ever chosen her before. Up above, the sound of ships roared, engines buzzed, soldiers' boots hit the ground. The radio in Jackson's pack clicked again. Alpha unit movement detected, entering search mode. Jackson turned off the radio. They waited in silence. Every sound above made Elira flinch. Footsteps echoed above the tunnel. Then a voice, cold and sharp. Orders are clear. No alien survivors. We end this today. Elira covered her mouth. Her breathing was shaking. Her body trembled with fear. Jackson reached out and touched her hand gently. Stay quiet. I've got you. The steps came closer. A bright beam of light shone through a small hole in the wall. Shadows moved. A soldier's voice said, I think I saw something. Jackson stood quietly, rifle in hand, eyes focused. If the soldiers opened that door, he'd have to shoot. He might not survive. But he didn't care. Elira grabbed his arm. Don't fight, she whispered. I can run. I'll lead them. Away. No. Jackson said firmly. You're not alone anymore. Not while I breathe. The footsteps paused, then turned away. They were safe. For now. Hours passed before Jackson dared to move. When he finally opened the door and stepped out, the sky was dark again. They'll be back, he said. We need to leave this area. Elira nodded slowly. Her heart was heavy. She had almost died again. But Jackson, he had stayed. He had chosen her. That night, under the stars, Jackson whispered to her, They see you as an enemy. And you? She asked. He looked at her and smiled softly. I see you as a reason to fight. Elira didn't reply. She leaned her head against his shoulder, and in her heart she made a silent promise. If he fights for me, then I will live for him. She took the bullet meant for him. The night was cold. The stars above were bright, but Elira and Jackson couldn't stop to look. They were running again, moving through broken buildings, silent roads, and deep shadows. The soldiers were still close. One mistake, one noise, and it would be over. Elira's feet hurt. Her body was tired. But she didn't stop. Jackson kept looking back, making sure she was still there. We'll be safe beyond that ridge, he said, pointing toward the rocky hill in the distance. There's a human outpost, a peaceful one. Will they help us? She asked. I hope so, he replied. They don't follow military orders. But before they could reach the ridge, they heard the sound of engines, soldier transport ships. Jackson pulled Elira behind a wall. His eyes scanned the sky. They found us, he whispered. How? She asked. Maybe a tracker. Maybe they followed our heat signature. From above, spotlights cut through the darkness. Voices shouted over speakers. Come out, drop your weapons. Any alien with you will be executed. Jackson looked at her. I won't let them touch you, he said. He raised his rifle and stepped into the open. Elira's eyes widened. What are you doing? Buying you time. You run. No. Yes, he said. You're the future. I'm just a broken soldier. She stood frozen. Then the first shot rang out. Bang! Jackson ducked behind rubble. More shots came. Sparks flew. The soldiers were close. He returned fire, hitting one soldier in the leg. Go! He shouted, but Elira didn't move. She saw a soldier, aiming directly at Jackson's back. Her heart stopped. Without thinking, she ran forward. No! Jackson screamed. Too late. The soldier fired. A single bullet cut through the air. Elira jumped in front of Jackson. The bullet hit her in the shoulder. She fell to the ground. Everything went silent. Jackson caught her in his arms. Elira, no, stay with me. Her eyes fluttered. Blood ran down her arm. I'm okay, she whispered. I'm okay. Jackson turned, rage burning in his eyes. He stood and fired at the soldiers. Each shot was fast, clean, deadly. The remaining soldiers dropped back, calling for retreat. Fall back, humans gone rogue. Soon the sound of engines faded. The soldiers left. Jackson dropped his rifle and turned back to Elira. She was pale, weak, but alive. You shouldn't have done that, he said, voice shaking. I couldn't let you die, she whispered. He tore open a med pack and began treating her wound. His hands were steady, but his eyes were full of fear. Just a graze, he said. You're lucky. She smiled weakly. You're lucky too. He stared at her. Why did you do that? Alira looked up at him, her voice soft. Because you made me believe I matter. No one ever did that before. Jackson couldn't speak. He wrapped the bandage carefully and held her hand. I should have protected you, he said. You did, she replied. You gave me hope. That night he carried her on his back toward the ridge. The journey was slow. She was tired. He was wounded too. But he didn't stop. When they finally reached the peaceful outpost, human civilians rushed to help. A doctor treated Alira immediately. She'll live, the doctor said. She's strong. Jackson sat beside her bed all night. He didn't sleep. He didn't leave. He just watched her breathe. When she finally opened her eyes the next morning, Jackson smiled and whispered, You scared me. You scare me all the time. She joked. They both laughed a little, but deep inside they both knew something had changed. They weren't just a soldier and a survivor anymore. They were something more, something stronger, something worth fighting for. He held her and said, You're not alone anymore. Alira opened her eyes slowly. Soft light filled the room. The walls were smooth, clean, quiet. She was lying on a real bed, not stone or dirt, but soft cloth and warmth. A screen nearby showed her heartbeat. Gentle music played in the background. She blinked. Was this a dream? Then she saw him. Jackson sat in the corner, eyes closed, arms crossed, still in his armor. His face was tired, but peaceful. She smiled. I'm alive, she whispered. His eyes opened. He rushed to her side. Alira, you're awake. She nodded. Where are we? Safe, he said. A human outpost. They don't follow the army. They took us in. Alira looked at her shoulder. It was wrapped carefully. She could feel the pain, but it wasn't sharp anymore. They saved me? He shook his head gently. You saved me first. They sat in silence for a while. Then Alira asked, Will the soldiers come back? Maybe, Jackson said. But this place is protected. They won't come easily. And if they do? He looked into her eyes. Then we fight together. She smiled weakly. I'm tired of running, she said. You don't have to run anymore, Jackson replied. You're not alone now. A tear slipped down her cheek. All my life I was told humans would hate us, that they would destroy us. He nodded. That's what we were told about aliens too. But you were different. So were you. The door opened and a group of children peeked inside. They were human and alien. Some with fur, some with green eyes, others with tails. Alira gasped. They're like me, she whispered. Jackson nodded. This is a refugee camp. All the ones who ran like you, like them. This is their home now. A little girl ran to Alira and handed her a small flower. Alira took it gently, smiling. Thank you. The girl smiled back and ran off. Jackson helped Alira sit up. You can stay here. Rest. Or you can help. Help? He pointed outside the window. The children need someone strong, someone kind, someone who understands. Alira looked down at her hands. I don't know if I'm strong enough. He placed his hand on hers. You are. You proved it. When you stood between me and that bullet, you became more than a survivor. You became a protector. Her heart filled with something warm, something she hadn't felt since before the war. Belonging. Later that day, Alira walked through the camp slowly. Children waved at her. Others followed her, curious about her silver-blue skin and glowing eyes. She laughed softly. At the center of the camp there was a small garden. It wasn't big, but flowers were growing, red, yellow, and purple. Elira knelt down and planted the flower the child had given her. Jackson stood behind her watching. "You're building something," he said. She looked back. "A future." He smiled. In the days that followed, Elira helped care for the children, cooked meals with other survivors, and slowly told her story. Some cried, some hugged her, all listened. At night, she sat with Jackson by the fire. They talked about the stars, the past, and dreams for the future. One evening, as the stars lit the sky, Elira asked, "Will you ever leave?" Jackson looked at her. "Only if you come with me." She smiled. "I don't want to be alone again." Reached out, pulled her gently into his arms, and whispered into her ear, "You're not alone anymore." And in that moment, Elira knew something had changed forever. Not just her life, but her heart. She had found her place, her people, her future, and a human who gave her the one thing she thought she'd never feel again: love.